everyone. Welcome to A Healthier You After 40. We're connecting to learn natural approaches to hormone balance, increased energy, better moods, and maintaining a strong and healthy body. I'm Linda Lukovic, your host, and I'm sitting here with Kristine Kolzing to talk about how to leverage your body's energy cycles. So I thought it would be a really interesting topic. We've had a lot of discussion in some of the other interviews around, sort of that hustle and flow conversation. And so I think it's a really important topic, especially when you are sort of over 50 and heading into your 40s, 50s, 60s. And so I'm just going to do a quick introduction and then I'm going to pass it over to Kristine. So Kristine is a transformational mindset expert, business coach, and Enneagram teacher who guides entrepreneurs, executives, and teams to align with their strengths and design their work and life in a revolutionary way. Her mission is to help you align your vision, strengths, and beliefs and show you how to work smarter, not harder. Let go of the mindset blocks that keep you stuck. Create clarity about what you truly want and plan your path to success while honoring your energy. So I love that connection to energy because health is complex, right? It's not just about our physical body. There are so many pieces to overall health. So I think it's a really important discussion. I'm excited about it. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you and to share this information with your community.
Yeah, no, it's such an interesting topic. So it would be really great to get to know you better if you wanted to just let people know who you are and how you got into your fields of work. That would be really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. So I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. My first business was a coffee house and juice bar that I opened right out of college. Years later, I actually became a Pilates instructor and had my own studio, and then supplemented my studio work with an online health and wellness business. And through that online health and wellness business, I got the opportunity to build a team of consultants. And through that work, I discovered that what I really loved was helping women start their own businesses, become entrepreneurs, and coach them through what that really means and what it takes. There's a lot of mindset work that goes into entrepreneurship. And I found that was really what was lighting me up. I was so passionate about helping women to just see themselves in a new light and to be able to do something that they had never done before. So in an effort to really be at my best in that role, I got some certifications as a success coach and a mindset expert, and then came back to my team and started coaching them more specifically on mindset and success. And that led to developing an online program for women entrepreneurs. So beyond just the team I was working with, I was able to expand my business. And the main entrepreneurs that we work with within that program are health and wellness coaches, nutritionists, fitness coaches, life coaches, women who are helping other women with their health and well-being. And then beyond that, we also have a program for small businesses, corporate teams, and startups to develop the leadership communication for their team. So really bringing more heart-centered leadership into the corporate world.
I love that. Yeah, it's so needed. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people do sort of hit their 40s and then they start to question things, right? Like you've been so busy up until that point in time of just getting it all done. And then you start to look at your life and you're like, wait a minute, like, am I where I want to be really, or where I dreamed of being? And then I think a lot of women do go into entrepreneurship in their 40s. Do you see that, I imagine?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Most of our clients are, late 30s to, mid 50s. And that's been their experience for a lot of them. They had a challenge, a struggle, something that they were determined to figure out and overcome. And through their own persistence, they were able to do that. And because they had this experience, they now want to share that with other women, which I think is really why so many women go into business for themselves, right? Is to share that experience and to be that, that sort of hand that's lifting up, reaching out for the next person. So
yeah, it's so fulfilling to do that.
It is.
Isn't it? Yeah. And as women, we tend to, a lot of us like that and need that ourselves. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about energy cycles and yeah, how that sort of plays out, the hustle and the flow.
Yeah. So as you and I chatted just before we started, this hustle mentality is really, it's woven into our cultural fabric.
Yeah.
You know, this idea that if you just work hard enough,
Yeah.
the success will come is one of the most deeply held beliefs in our culture.
Yeah.
And that in order to have success, you have to work hard. And
Mhm.
now it's becoming not just working hard,
Yeah.
which by that I mean lots of hours, right? Never taking breaks.
Yeah.
It's bringing your work with you on vacation if you take vacation. It's being available for emails and texts from your, from your team or from your clients all the time. It's
Yeah.
this sort of life. I think the pandemic showed us that we can work from home, but also those boundaries got really blurred because now work is at your desk in your living room or in your spare bedroom or at your kitchen table. And so I'm seeing, this is a trend that's been occurring and is only like, I think it's not only getting bigger, but it's also getting more recognition, which I hope means change, that this level of accessibility, coupled with this belief that you have to work hard in order to be successful is just leading to a lot of burnout, especially for women, because women also have the added responsibility generally of, raising children and taking care of the home. Even with partners who are very involved, women still tend to do most of the thinking about those things, right?
Exactly.
Like we gotta get that physical done for, before school starts. We gotta get that paperwork in to the, to the PTA or whatever. It's like women are thinking about a lot of those things more often.
It's so true. We always joke about that, like when you're packing for like a weekend away and, your husband's tasked with loading the car, but then meanwhile, you've been packing for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, you totally nailed it. You've been planning in your head and
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it can feel really challenging when you're coming up against this burnout, when you feel like you're just hustling and working nonstop, you're tired, right? This was an experience for me because this was how I built one of my businesses, my health and wellness business. I built this way. It was hustle, nonstop, working weekends, working on vacation. When my family wanted my attention, I was annoyed a lot of the times. I'm like, can't you see I'm working, and eventually I burned out. Like my physical body had enough. I developed a terrible case of insomnia. I was in major adrenal fatigue. My hormones were completely out of balance. And it caused me, that physical breakdown really caused me to take a look at what I was doing and what was going to be sustainable for me. And that was also one of the reasons why I wanted to dive deeper into the mindset work so that I could create something that would get me out of that industry that was so hustle focused.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. We've talked a lot about adrenal fatigue through this summit. And because I think I don't know if it's like a type A person's, it happens to a lot of women, but I love that we're talking about it. Like, I love that we're saying it is a thing and it's something that we do need to take seriously. But I would love to hear, we often talk about the fact that you get whispers from your body and then they get louder and louder and louder. If you think back, do you remember what the original whispers were happening in your body that were sort of telling you, hey, slow down, something's not right?
Yeah, I think it was just this constant feeling of pressure.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was a pressure that I was putting on myself. I had very high expectations for myself and for my business and what I would accomplish every day. And if I didn't get, all of those things checked off my to-do list, or if I didn't just feel like I was accomplishing enough, the pressure would feel like overwhelm. I constantly felt like I was behind, even though like I couldn't possibly be doing more. And so it was that feeling of just sort of nonstop pressure. It was also a business that was 100% commission based.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's that added pressure of like, there's no base salary here. Like every month the sales start back at zero. So there was just that constant feeling of pressure. It was hard to take a break. It was hard to relax, even when, even when I was, maybe taking a weekend off or, going on a vacation.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's helpful, because I'm sure that there's a lot of women watching this saying, oh my gosh, yeah, maybe that's what I'm feeling right now. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And then I think for me too, that like the next sign was not being able to sleep well.
Okay.
That was really like the first. So the pressure was really the first maybe mental or emotional sense that this wasn't working for me.
Right.
And then the physical was the first thing happened that my sleep patterns started to change. And I've dealt with insomnia most of my life on and off. So I know oftentimes that when that is arising, something's going on underneath. There's something hormonally that's out of balance that I need to start looking at.
Cortisol.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So after you sort of, I guess you said burned out, what did you do next? Like what sort of, I would love to hear the journey that you.
I started to ask myself, like, what do I want to do? What actually lights me up? What do I love? What brings me joy? Because I need to be able to do this. Was, I was, how long ago? I was just in my early 40s.
Okay.
And I was like, if I'm going to work for another 20 years, I can't work at this pace at this way. What do I want to do that really brings me joy? And that's when I started to realize that it wasn't the health and wellness business that was bringing me the joy. It was working with the women on my team. It was doing that, the coaching, not just their mindset, but also the skill sets that they needed to become an entrepreneur. And that's when I said, if I could just do that, that would feel really good for me. So I allowed myself to be honest about what I was willing to do and what I wanted to do for the next 20 years. And that allowed me to start shifting into the coaching and mindset space.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Any advice for someone who is like, let's say someone's in a great job, great money, but having those feelings that there's something different or something more for them. What advice would you give that person?
I say, listen to that little voice. Right? The voice of our intuition is, like you mentioned earlier, it's a whisper. Oftentimes, because our logical brain likes to take over, and our logical brain can be very loud, and it can drown out the voice of our intuition. So getting quiet, taking time for yourself, journaling it, daydreaming, allowing yourself to be able to explore what else could be possible for you. I think that we don't give enough credit to daydreaming. We were all like taught as kids, if you were in class and you were kind of looking out the window, it was like, no, pay attention. Right. So reconnecting back to imagination and playfulness and daydreaming, you're allowed to daydream as big and as much as you want. It doesn't mean that every single one of those dreams has to or will come true, but it just gives you the space to expand into possibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. Gosh, and that's been, so important, especially over the last couple of years, hasn't it? Just to daydream about what could be. Amazing. So I'm curious to know, so how does it look when someone works with you? Like where do you start? Sort of where do you go? And how do you support women in that journey?
So it really depends on where they are in their process, for example, and I think this really ties into what we're talking about here in this summit. I had a client come to me. She's an entrepreneur. She actually is she helps women through perimenopause and menopause with natural hormone balancing, helping women with, eating the right kinds of foods and that kind of thing. But she was exhausted. And she was at a point where she was not quite sure if she could keep doing what she was doing, because every month she would have a week or two where she just felt like she was pushing a boulder up a hill. It just felt like too much effort. Things felt really hard. And then, then she would kind of snap out of it. And then come into like a couple of weeks where she was like, you know what, it's going well. I feel good. I'm ready to write content, take sales calls. But this cycle was starting to really weigh on her, that there wasn't consistency in her business. So the first thing that we talked about was her energy, like what's happening when you're in these low periods and what's happening when you're in these high periods. And we began to connect the dots for her, that, this was her body's natural energy cycle. And that when she allowed herself to have a little more rest during those low energy times and not try to keep pushing at the same effort, then she was able to recover from those low energy times very quickly and then come back into her high energy times with a lot more creativity and innovation and excitement for her work. So we started with helping her plan her time. And that's a big component of what we do in our program. Because
that's really interesting.
When you can plan your time around your body's natural ebbs and flows of energy, you can be like extra productive when you're in high energy, and then you can allow yourself to rest when you're in lower energy. So you're creating balance for yourself, which for a lot of women, we're working from a very masculine paradigm. And masculine energy really it's very similar day after day. Most men have the same energy level consistently. They have an ebb and flow that moves throughout the day, but women have an ebb and flow that moves throughout the month.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And when we're able to tune into that and honor it and work with it instead of against it, we find that we're able to really bring ourselves back into balance. She's now able to, take a couple of days off each month when she knows that's the time for her to do that. Her business is thriving. She's making more money consistently than she ever has before. She's enjoying her work. So it's been really fun, helping her to plan her time and connect with her own energy.
I really love that.
Yeah.
I really love it, because we all feel that at times. Sometimes you wake up and you're just like, I don't know what it is. And our brains are negative, right? And so often we'll like, oh, come on, keep going. But
snap out of it. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, just totally. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, come on, get it together.
Drink another cup of coffee.
Exactly. Go do that 2-hour exercise class. Give yourself a So is it, because there's like a certain time in your cycle where you're more creative, and that's sort of what you're alluding to here, right? Is it you are more creative to the last half?
So if you'd like, I can go through the four phases and we can talk about that. So often you'll hear people talking about energy in lots of different ways. And the energy that I'm talking about there's a duality of energy that we all possess. There's masculine energy and feminine energy. And this is about energy, not about gender. So everyone, regardless of gender, has masculine and feminine energy. So just want to make that clear. It's not about our gender. It's just that women tend to have more connection to feminine energy, and men tend to have more connection to masculine energy. But as we know, gender is very fluid.
Yeah.
Right. And we have folks who are all over the gender spectrum, and everyone has the ability to tap into both their own personal, masculine energy and feminine energy. So masculine energy is, it is the taking action. It's doing, it's focus, drive, it's ambition, it's risk taking. And it's really essential for us to have that energy, right? It's how we get projects started. It's how you get your business going. It's how you move the needle at your job. But it hurts when we don't shut it off. When we think that everything is about just taking more action, right? Putting more on the to-do list and not ever taking a break. Feminine energy is more related to creativity, intuition, compassion, connection, empathy. It's about asking those deeper questions. It's about being more present in the moment, and it's about receiving. So when I talked about daydreaming, right, that's definitely connecting more into the feminine energy of what is possible. What else can I tap into? So in our culture, that masculine energy has always been held up as like, this is the way to be, right? You work hard, you hustle, you get the success, you keep taking action. But what we see is, for a lot of women and even for a lot of men, it just leads to burnout and to fatigue. And so how do we find that balance? Well, for women, we find that balance through our cycle.
Right.
And so there are times in our menstrual cycle where we have lower energy. We're more in our feminine energy. And there's times of our menstrual cycle where we're more in our masculine energy, a little higher energy. One is not better than the other.
Yeah.
They are both important, and we can tap into both in order to find that balance internally.
Right.
So, so there's two ways that you can track your own energy cycles. If you're someone who's still menstruating, then I just tell people, grab a paper calendar, and every night before you go to bed, just make a little note on that day of how you felt. Like, I felt really happy and energized, or I felt really tired, I wanted to take a nap, or I felt really angry, I was snapping at people. Like, just notice that pattern for a month and see, like, when was I generally in a higher energy, like, sleeping well, waking up refreshed, and when was I in a little bit lower energy? Maybe I didn't really want to, like, go out and see people. I kind of wanted to, snuggle up on the couch. So you can determine it that way. If you're no longer menstruating, like I'm postmenopausal already. So I go by the cycles of the moon, which many women can do that as well. This also works great for non-binary folks, for trans folks, and even for men who are interested in tapping into these energy cycles as well. So there's a lineup of our menstrual cycle with the cycles of the moon, which I think is just so cool. Like, I think the whole design of, like, our universe and we as humans, when we see these patterns, it's like, it just blows my mind, like how amazing the whole design is of life. So, okay. So if you're listening, this is a great time to grab a piece of paper and a pencil. And you can just take a couple of notes about these different cycles. So we're going to start with the new moon, which is the moment of your cycle when you're actually menstruating. This is when you're in your feminine energy. And also, if you want to think about it, this is your season of winter, right? So this aligns with the seasons as well. So at this point, what you can focus on is rest, reflecting, being in flow, right? If you you can ask yourself big questions, like, this is the good time for the daydreaming. It's also a good time to make high leverage decisions, because you're in a space where you're thinking very clearly. It's a great time to just go inward and listen to your gut, connect with your own intuition and what it is that you want. This is the time when your physical energy will be at its lowest. So this is a good time to take a day off.
Yeah.
Minimize your social engagements. This is not when you necessarily want to be doing, a big speaking engagement or going to a lot of networking functions or planning a party, right? You're probably going to want to be a little more inward and just do gentle movement, if any. So this is, do some yoga, take a walk. You don't have to push yourself with, the HIIT workout this week.
Yeah.
And this is also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's so interesting because someone actually who just had a pretty major surgery, and I was just talking with her about something. Actually, I was asking to see if she wanted to be interviewed in this summit, and she was like, "I'm actually wintering. I'm wintering right now." And I said, "Oh, okay, yeah." And that was exactly what she said. She's like, I just need to think about things and just laying low." And I think that is such a powerful statement because even just in our culture, like going back to what we were talking about earlier, is even with healing, sometimes where people are like, no, like I was back on my feet in 2 days and I was like running again. And it's like it's that need that we always need to just like be okay and push. But I love what you're saying is like, it's okay. It's a thing. Like wintering is fully acceptable and we should embrace it more. So,
I mean, it's necessary. Nature does it because it's necessary for that rejuvenation, right? Yeah. It's also why in America, we only give women 6 weeks off for maternity leave. Like somehow they're supposed to have enough energy to come back to.
We're lucky you're in Canada, but we get a year. And now
I have a lot of Canadian clients and we often talk about the differences in our healthcare ideologies, beliefs, and systems. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Can't even believe that we have 6 weeks, but anyways, yeah.
That's a topic for another summit. So this think of it as you're in your winter, for these few days. And it's also a really great time to evaluate what's working and what's not working in your life. And it's a time to let go. Like your body is physically letting go of what it doesn't need. Right? It did not need this egg this time. So it's physically letting go. So it's a good time to also let go of any mental and emotional things that you no longer need. Okay. And then right after winter comes spring, right? So after that menstrual cycle, you come into your follicular cycle. Now, this is aligned with the waxing moon. So this is when we're coming into that, the first quarter moon. And this is associated with masculine energy, right? So things are coming into action. Think about all the flowers that are blooming, right? There's action to come up from the ground. This is a great time to plan and initiate. It's a good time to brainstorm, to map out projects. If you're a business owner, this is a great time to map out your next launch or your next editorial campaign or your next marketing strategy. It's a good time to get projects started and to start taking action on getting those things going. I always think of this as like that season when the farmers are looking at the field and they're like, where are we putting the corn? Where are we putting the peas? Where are we putting the tomatoes, right? You plan it out. And this is energetically you're most primed to plan. This is the time where you're planting seeds of creation, right? So all the things you were thinking about in that new moon phase, this is the time to start planting those seeds, right? And start those projects. That's great. And then right after spring comes summer. So this is the full moon. And this is also your masculine energy. This is when you're ovulating. So there is, this is the highest energetically and creatively that you are throughout your month. This is a time to focus on being visible, connecting. So it's a great time to be social, to go to networking events, to make connections, to plan that party, to go to events. If you do so, like if you're an entrepreneur, great time to do interviews, make videos, do sales calls, batch your content. The reason you feel naturally inclined to be more visible in this time is that when you're ovulating, you're releasing pheromones and hormones
Mhm.
out into the world that are sort of like, hey,
Yeah, you're
I'm
back. Yeah,
ready.
that's interesting.
Look
Yeah,
at me.
that's great. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so you can use that to your advantage here.
Yeah.
It's a great time. You're generally at your most articulate and magnetic during
Mhm.
this time. So it's a great time to engage and connect with others. And then our last cycle, we come into fall.
Mhm.
And this is the luteal phase. It is the waning moon phase, and we're back into feminine energy.
Mhm.
So this is a great time to wrap things up, right? When fall comes for the farmer, it's that, you're harvesting, you're bringing things to completion, you're gathering things together. So this is a great time to analyze, to work on things on the back end, right?
Mhm.
You've just been very visible and out there. So now what is the culmination of that?
Mhm.
There is a bit of negativity bias present at this time, which a lot of women experience, right? That week, because we're in the luteal phase. Next is going to come the menstrual phase.
Yeah.
A lot of women experience this as they're having PMS symptoms. There is
Right.
a bit of negativity that can happen here. So if that's happening, like, cool. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. That
Yeah.
is like, that's happening
Yeah.
to a lot of us during this
Yeah.
phase. And just allow yourself to go with it. But this is also marks the time when you come back inward and you're most energetically poised to complete projects, to, dot the I's, cross your T's. And your brain chemistry is actually supporting focus and the ability to finish things at this point.
So
So you
interesting.
can make good decisions and you're more directed by your gut feeling and your intuition, which
Mhm.
will never steer you wrong.
Interesting. And that's the same like in menopause as well. Like I see, of course, I'm thinking the hormones are doing that to your brain, but it's more than that. It's something bigger than that. So
Yeah, it's not just the, estrogen and progesterone and
Mhm.
testosterone. It's also, your serotonin, your melatonin,
Yeah,
your
your
cortisol,
neurotransmitters.
your adrenals, right?
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
hormonal system
Yeah.
functioning together.
Mhm.
So yeah, and that's why even women who, like those of us who are postmenopausal or, who don't have a menstrual cycle anymore,
Mhm.
we still have these energetic ebbs and flows, maybe not as high and as low as when
Mhm.
think back to your teenage years when you were first, the highs and the lows of
Yeah.
your cycle were like, oh, it was
Yeah.
such a roller coaster,
Yeah.
right? And then it sort of balances out over time, but it's still something that that our body is primed to go through
Mhm.
every month.
That makes me wonder about, you know, I was never regular, my cycle, but you always wonder about, sir, what was happening on an energetic level at that point in time. So we all know there's so much to health.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if your cycles are very long, or short, yeah, just
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I say, in the beginning, just get out a calendar.
Yeah.
And whether you're menstruating or not, just for 1 month, track how you feel each day. What's your mood? What's your energy level? Just start to notice those patterns for yourself
Yeah.
because, while this is a general guideline, it's not like every single woman fits into this exact
Yeah.
same, or every single
Right.
person, I should say, fits into this
Yeah.
exact same thing. I actually have
Yeah.
clients who are opposite. Like I have clients who are menstruating during the full moon. And I'm like,
Okay.
cool, then
Yeah.
go with your
Yeah.
body, right? Like don't discount what your body's doing and say, well, I should be high energy. No,
Yeah.
it's how your body's working for you. So just
Yeah.
tuning into that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, can I come to that meeting? Let me check my period tracker versus my
Uh,
calendar.
Absolutely. I will plan things based on that.
Yeah.
I will plan launches and,
That's so cool.
a couple days out of the month, I kind of shut down my calendar for sales calls or coaching calls because I just don't
Hmm.
have as much energy for that. And you might also notice that as you're tracking these things, that there's times of the month when you want to eat more. And there's times of the month when
Yeah.
you're okay with eating less. There's
Yeah.
times of the month when you need to sleep a little longer. And there's times of the month when you wake up before your alarm clock, right? And all of these things are normal. We're not meant to be like cookie cutter the exact same way every single day.
Yeah, no, I love that point that you just made, because I think, we are hard on ourselves too. And sometimes, when diet we can control, sometimes people do it a bit too much, and it's okay. I always say, like, in winter, it's okay if I gain some extra weight. It's not a big deal. Like, I'm hibernating. I'm trying to keep warm. And it's so, I've, it's taken me my whole life to get there, but now it's fine, right? I'm okay with it. Because I always know I'm gonna drop it in the spring and eat.
Because all
the way it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Like our ancient DNA was primed for us to gain more weight in the winter so we could stay warm. Yeah. We're out there living in the caves. Like we need a little extra cushion. And then in the summer when we're running around and gathering all the things that are growing, and like, we're going to naturally bring that back. And actually in the time before artificial light, more women were connected to those cycles of the moon.
Yeah.
So if you've ever read stories about, Native American tribes or, cultures before the time of artificial light, women would generally be on the same, all the women would be on their same cycle at the same time. And that would be a time for women to gather together to, like, sometimes they would go into their own tent together, right? Or they would separate themselves from everyone for a little while. And it was really that tuning inward and with each other, creating that connection that they would do during that time.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think some cultures are also, they've sort of maintained that as well. Like, I still remember meeting people in my job, and I know some women would say that, no, I'm taking it easy during my period and I'm not coming into work. And it was like a thing. And I'm like, okay, it's really interesting. I'm like, maintained it. Yeah, no, really, really interesting. Oh my gosh. So I'm definitely gonna start paying more attention and making notes of it. So are there any final tips you want to give our viewers now before we talk about your freebie?
It can feel a little bit like you're swimming upstream when you start to do this, because like we've said several times, our culture does not value rest and reflection.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm hearing this phrase more and more. Rest is a revolution at this point. And for most of us, it's a privilege. And it's something that we need to be leaning into and doing more so we can normalize rest as a part of our culture. Because if we don't, I think we're just headed for, more and more burnout. And we don't want the next generation to think that that's the way it has to be. So, know that when you're doing this for yourself in the beginning, it can feel really uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, can I actually take a half day? Can I really just sleep a little longer? I mean, just those tiny things can feel really challenging because it's pushing up against the cultured beliefs that we've all internalized. So take a little time to recognize that, maybe journal out what are these beliefs that are coming up?
Yeah.
And are they true?
Yeah.
Like, are they facts? Is this objectively true? And is it true for me? Right. And if it's not, what would I like to believe instead? So start doing some of that belief shifting for yourself so that over time, you can just feel really good about, taking that time for yourself.
Such great advice. Because I felt exactly that when I left my corporate job. It took me 2 years to be like fully okay with taking time off, like in the daytime during a work week.
Yes.
I know, it's so like, you're just so programmed. So I think that's just such a great point. So thank you so much. That was so interesting. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of women interested in grabbing your freebie. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and then let us know where we can find you?
Yes, thank you so much. So my freebie is a 30-minute consultation call with me. So we can talk about your cycles and your energy and help you map out the month ahead. Or you can use that time to really get feedback get some mindset coaching, what that time will be for you. But I'm opening this time just for those who are attending this summit. And Linda, I believe you'll have the link for everyone here.
Right.
And then you're welcome to connect with me. I'm on Facebook, Kristine
Mm-hmm.
Kolzing. I'm on Instagram at Kristine Kolzing, and I'm on LinkedIn as Kristine Kolzing as well. So, and I'm the only one in the world. So if you type in my name, you will find me.
Yeah, it works to that for sure. And you have a podcast, don't you?
I used to.
Oh, you used to. Okay.
Yeah. I had a podcast for a couple of years. Really enjoyed it. And then my intuition was telling me that it was, there was too much hustle with it and not enough joy. So, so not anymore, but
that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a ton and I'm sure everyone else did too. So thank you.
Thank you so much.